Former South Carolina Governor and Congressman Mark Sanford has joined the Republican race against President Donald Trump today, aiming to put his Appalachian Trail travails behind him for good as he pursues an admittedly remote path to the presidency. "I am here to tell you now that I am going to get in," Mr. Sanford said in an interview on Fox News Sunday. "This is the beginning of a long walk." Former South Carolina Governor and Congressman Mark Sanford has joined the Republican race against President Donald Trump today, aiming to put his Appalachian Trail travails behind him for good as he pursues an admittedly remote path to the presidency. When asked why he was taking on an incumbent who's popular within the party, Mr. Sanford, who has acknowledged his slim chances by saying he doesn't expect to become president, said, "I think we need to have a conversation on what it means to be a Republican. I think that as the Republican Party, we have lost our way." Mr. Sanford joins Joe Walsh, a former Tea Party-backed, one-term congressman from Illinois, and Bill Weld, the former Republican governor of Massachusetts, as primary challengers to Mr. Trump. "This vanity project is going absolutely nowhere," said Drew McKissick, the South Carolina Republican Party chairman. Mr. Sanford tweeted that he respects the view of many Republican friends who have suggested that I not run, but I simply counter that competition makes us stronger. Related articles. "Humbly I step forward," he said. Mr. Sanford joins Joe Walsh, a former Tea Party-backed, one-term congressman from Illinois, as primary challengers to Mr. Trump. What Mark Sanford has said so far. The 59-year-old Mr. Sanford has long been an outspoken critic of Mr. Trump's, frequently questioning his motivations and qualifications during the run-up to the 2016 presidential election and calling Mr. Trump's candidacy a particularly tough pill to swallow. Ultimately, though, Mr. Sanford said he would support Mr. Trump in the 2016 general election, although he had no stomach for his personal style and his penchant for regularly demeaning others, continuing a drumbeat that the then-candidate release his tax returns. As Mr. Sanford sought re-election to his post representing South Carolina's 1st District in 2018, drawing a primary challenger who embraced Mr. Trump, the president took interest in the race. State Representative Katie Arrington repeatedly aired ads featuring Mr. Sanford's on-air critiques of Mr. Trump and attached the Never Trump moniker to Mr. Sanford, a condemnation in a state that Mr. Trump carried by double digits in 2016. Although unlikely to have had a significant impact on the results, Mr. Trump endorsed Ms. Arrington just hours before the polls closed, tweeting that Mr. Sanford has been very unhelpful to me and my campaign and that he is better off in Argentina, a reference to Mr. Sanford's secret 2009 rendezvous to South America for an extramarital affair while his in-the-dark gubernatorial staff told reporters he was hiking the Appalachian Trail. Mr. Sanford also joins Bill Weld, the former Republican governor of Massachusetts. EPA asked Sunday if that incident could be a distraction to his campaign. Mr. Sanford said that the aftermath had forced him to attain a new level of empathy. "I profoundly apologize for that," he added, noting that South Carolina voters subsequently forgave him politically and sent him back to Congress. Days after his first-ever political loss, Mr. Sanford described Trumpism as a cancerous growth, warning the GOP that the cancer is spreading. "We have a president that will tell numerous distruths in the course of a day, yet that's not challenged," Mr. Sanford said. "What's cancerous here is in an open political system, there has to be some measure of objective truth." Although unlikely to have had a significant impact on the results, Mr. Trump endorsed Ms. Arrington just hours before the polls closed, tweeting that Mr. Sanford has been very unhelpful to me and my campaign. Who is Mark Sanford? Mr. Sanford won 3 terms for U.S. House in the 1990s, then 2 4-year terms as governor before the affair marred the end of his second term. He returned to politics a couple of years later and won a special election to his old U.S. House seat in 2013, holding on twice more. Throughout his political career, Mr. Sanford has played up his outsider credentials, both in the U.S. House, where he supported a box to check on federal tax returns to put $3 toward the national debt, and as governor, bringing a pair of squealing pigs to the state house and Senate chamber to protest what he called pork spending. As the main focus of his presidential bid, Mr. Sanford has said he plans to zero in on holding down federal spending, an issue on which he has railed since his initial stint in the House. Known during his Capitol Hill years as a deficit hawk, Mr. Sanford expressed a determination to bring debt and fiscal restraint into the national conversation. "Let's go out and try to force a conversation about that which is not being talked about in this country," Mr. Sanford said today. Copyright 9 Digital Proprietary Limited 2019. Let's block ads. Why?